So good afternoon, everybody. We want to welcome you to our training, Special Education Frequently Asked Questions 2.0. This training will cover some of the most commonly asked questions parents ask about IEPs and discipline. As part of our FACT series, we also offer Special Education FACT 1.0 that covers identification, referral, and evaluation parts of special education, and Special Education Fact 3.0 that covers the transition process. We're going to do that next month. As a matter of fact, we're putting it together right now. To ensure this training is helpful and relevant to you, we'll be doing some interactive activities and we'll ask you to complete an evaluation at the end. The evaluation results help us continuously improve our trainings. It should take you less than 2 minutes to complete the evaluation. Everyone completing an evaluation is going to get a copy of the PowerPoint and a certificate of attendance. If you lose your audio or video during the training, usually if you wait a few seconds, Zoom is going to come back on and you're going to be able to see it again. If that doesn't happen, you can go back to the email that we sent you for your registration and get back into the webinar again, or even use the phone number on that in that email to call in. You can submit questions in the chat box at any time, though we will have a question and answer time at the end. I don't know about you, I like to do mine when I'm thinking of it. I'm Melinda Elliott, and I'm your presenter for this training. My coworker is Wallace Johnson. My coworker and my friend, Wallace Johnson. He's the guy that makes all of these Zoom things work. uh, Families Helping Families of Southwest Louisiana is one of 10 nonprofit family resource centers in the Families Helping Families network of centers. We're here to provide support to parents of children, youth, and adults with disabilities or special health care needs. We do this through individual assistance, information sharing, outreach, and trainings. This training was created from funding from the United States Department of Education to the Louisiana Parent Training and Information Center. The PTI, the Louisiana Parent Training and Information Center, is a program of Families Helping Families of Greater New Orleans. And these trainings were done in collaboration with the Louisiana Department of Education to be used by the statewide network of Families Helping Families centers. Families Helping Families of Southwest Louisiana provides webinars and in-person trainings on special education and disability-related topics. We invite you to check out our website and our Facebook page for our events. Our website is www.FHFSWLA.org. But check them regularly and register for any upcoming training that might be of interest to you. We also invite you to request specific trainings that you don't currently see being offered. If you're interested in a topic, somebody else probably is too. You can do that by emailing us. You can do that by writing it on that evaluation. There's a space or two where you can type in things. But yeah, we're interested. What are you interested in? The other thing, other than education, that I do at Families Helping Families is I'm the LACAN Region 5 team leader. LACAN stands for the Louisiana Council's Advocacy Network. My job is to link you, lawmakers, other people with disabilities or other family members of people with disabilities to make change in a system serving people with disabilities. We advocate for policies and systems that support inclusion everywhere people learn, work, live, play. We want people to live in their own homes and be fully included in participating members of their local schools and communities. So how do we do this? There are 9 of us across the state. We're 5, so we're right smack in the middle. Region 1, the lady Christina that you see on the front end actually does Region 10 as well because they're like right touching each other. Um, we have legislative roundtables. We are having community input meetings. We will have, I think two of them are already on the website, two virtual ones, and we will have an in-person one and that I'm working on. And people tell us what's important to them, what isn't working right. We bring those things to the DD Council, and the DD Council has a committee that makes some decisions and brings it to the full council. That's where our legislative agenda comes from. And then we talk about it at those roundtables. We do individual meetings with our legislators. They don't want to talk to me. They've talked to me for years now. They would like to talk to you, their constituents. We have yellow shirt days where we have some new yellow shirts that are coming out right now. I haven't gotten my supply, but I will shortly of for Lacan. So when you go to your roundtable legislative meeting and to Baton Rouge when we have yellow shirt days, you can wear your yellow shirt. We have action alerts. Action alerts will tell you information about what's going on in the system and ask you to make your views about it known, and will tell you who to effectively make your views known to. Those are probably my favorite part because I've been doing those forever and they really seem to make a difference. But essentially, it's free to sign up, and what you sign up for is getting those alerts. So you're going to learn all kinds of things. Of course, I'm going to contact you about did you contact your legislator? Or do you want to go to the yellow shirt days, or do you uh, want to go on legislative visits? But yeah, you're going to get a lot of good information. If I know Wallace, he's already dropped the link in the chat. Let's go on to a quick icebreaker. Again, it'll let you make sure your mic works. The icebreaker question is, where would you like to travel? So I would like to be able to go to the Grand Canyon. That's one of my examples of places I would like to go. Now, if you could put places of names that you'd like to go in the chat, I would appreciate it. Wallace, do you see any? For some reason, I can't see the chat.
I'm trying to put Smoky Mountains, but only Smoky came out.
Uh-oh.
And someone put New Zealand.
Ooh, New
Yeah. Oh,
Zealand. That sounds
yeah.
exciting.
Australia. Ooh, I
Oh,
wouldn't mind that either.
I would like to see Australia, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Morgan's Wonderland.
Oh, cool.
I'm not sure what that is, but I would probably like it.
You like to go, right, Wallace?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a park for special ed.
Oh, cool. So let's go on to the learning objectives for this training. First, we want to provide you with a list of commonly used acronyms and terms. Then, frequently asked questions about IEPs. Then, we're going to answer frequently asked questions about behavior and discipline. And finally, we'll provide you with some resources or where to find answers to those frequently asked questions and more. Let's start with most commonly used acronyms in this presentation. We have IEP for Individualized Education Program, FAPE for Free Appropriate Public Education, IDEA for the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, LRE for the Least Restrictive Environment, PBIS or PBS, Positive Behavior Intervention Supports, an FBA, which is a Functional Behavior Assessment, BIP, which is a behavior intervention plan. The MDR is the manifestation determination review. And then OCR is the Office of Civil Rights. There's going to be some additional terms you will hear me reference. One of them is Bessie. That's Louisiana's Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. It's like the state school board. Bulletin 1706, that's the Louisiana Regulations of the Children with Exceptionalities Act. That's Louisiana's regulation for the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. Bulletin 1530, which is the Louisiana IEP Handbook, and Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. That's the federal law that prohibits discrimination based on disabilities. And you can get copies of the first three things for sure on the Louisiana Department of Education website, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. So, how do I prepare for my annual meeting? Preparing for your child's Individualized Education Program, or IEP meeting, isn't tough, but it does take a little time. That's going to be time well spent if you go into the meeting organized. If your child has been receiving any outside help from school, as like a tutor or a therapist, ask them for their input. Talk to your child's teacher about what seems to be working or not working and any thoughts he or she might have. If your child communicates, find out their feelings about school. You can also review your child's current IEP goals. Review those progress reports, hopefully you're getting them, and see how close they are to meeting their goals. If you're not sure, ask the teacher these questions before the meeting. Your child should be making great strides in meeting the goals or coming closer to meeting them. If they aren't, you should be really concerned and question why the IEP team hasn't reconvened sooner. IEP team meetings must be held once a year, but they can be held more frequently if necessary. A good reason to hold an IEP more frequently is when a child isn't making progress to their goals. Another thing you can do is reread your most recent evaluation. Every time you read that evaluation, you're going to take something new from it or something new might stand out. And if this is the first IEP meeting, make sure you got your evaluation in advance of your first IEP meeting. That way you have enough time to read it, ask questions, and understand it. The IEP has a block that's called Parent Concerns. Make sure you create a list of your concerns to be added to the IEP. Remember, those are your concerns, so don't agree to not include them, even if someone on the team says, oh, we're addressing that. It's still your concern. Like, if you're concerned your child isn't reading on grade level and the teacher says the reading intervention is just working with him, so that doesn't need to be a concern, you should then say something similar to this. Even with the support of a reading interventionist, I'm still concerned about my child not reading on grade level. Something else you can do is go to the IEP meetings with a list to discuss. The list should be broken down into two columns. There's the non-negotiable things that are FAPE related, and then the negotiable things would be for things non-FAPE related that'd be not nice to have but aren't required by law. So another fact or another question: who must be in attendance at an IEP meeting? Bulletin 1706 is the regulations for implementation of the Children's with Exceptionality Act. Those are Louisiana's regulation to ensure that the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, the federal law, are being followed. Bulletin 321 of 1706 requires one or both parents, not less than one regular education teacher of the student, not less than one special education teacher of the student, an officially designated representative, in our state we'll say the ODR for short, of the school district who is qualified to provide or supervise the provision of specially designed instruction to meet the unique needs of students with disabilities, and is knowledgeable about general education, and is knowledgeable about the availability of resources in the district. Then an individual who can interpret the instructional implications of the evaluation. At the discretion of the parent or the school district, you might have other people who have knowledge or special expertise regarding the student. And then whenever it's appropriate, the student. If the student is transition age, like 16 or over, the school district has to invite the student with a disability to attend his or her IEP meeting. If the student doesn't attend the meeting, they can take steps like, and do an inventory, a questionnaire, something like that to include preferences and interest. But ultimately, in Louisiana, they are minors. So they do not have to attend the meeting until they're 18, or you do something to be able to help them after they turn 18. Is the school required to give me advance notice for an IEP? Bulletin 1706 requires the school to take steps to ensure that one or both of the parents of the student with a disability are present at each IEP meeting or are afforded the opportunity to participate. They're supposed to notify the parents early enough to ensure they'll have an opportunity to attend and schedule the meeting at a mutually agree upon time and place. It also 1706 also provides for other methods to ensure parent participation. If neither parent can attend the meeting, the school district can use other methods to ensure parent participation, including individual or conference telephone calls. Under Bulletin 1706, the parent and school district may agree to use alternate means of meeting participation, like video conferences as well. Is there a time limit on an IEP meeting? Nowhere in the regulations is there a time limit on IEP meetings. The law doesn't provide any guidance on the minimum or maximum amount of minutes to meet, but the meeting should be long enough to provide the team enough time to plan a unique and appropriate IEP for your child. If for some reason you feel rushed, you can simply ask to reconvene the meeting at another time. If the members of the team start the meeting stating they have a limited amount of time, right away. Let them know you're happy to go as far as they can, but still will need to reconvene if it isn't done or feels like it's being rushed. An annual initial IEP meeting could last as long as a few hours, depending on the needs of the child. Unfortunately, some schools try to schedule a lot of IEP meetings on certain days and block out specific short time frames. That's really inappropriate for an initial IEP meeting or any annual IEP meeting. There's no way you can adequately go over necessary IEP items in a predetermined minimum period. As a rule of thumb, plan on an hour at minimum, but even then. So, can I request a specific methodology for my child? No. IDEA doesn't give parents any rights around methodology schools choose to use. However, if your child is not progressing with the methodology being used, the IEP team needs to reconvene and determine what methodology will be used next. The IEP team should always be monitoring for progress. And if the child is not making adequate progress, they need to then revisit how they're teaching the child. If you know there's a specific program or curriculum methodology that's been successful with your child and your child is not making adequate progress with the methodology being used at your school, I'd recommend having your request added to the parental concerns part of the IEP. If your child isn't making adequate progress and the school refuses to use the methodology of your choice, having it added under parental concerns will then give you a permanent record of your request, and the school will need to provide you with prior written notice. It's a form stating why they refuse to do it. Both of these things will be really powerful evidence in the event you decide to pursue future legal action. It's the paper trail that we talk about often. Okay, it's time for our first poll question. Are you there, Wallace? You gonna launch the poll for me, please, sir, please? Okay. Does the parent have to participate at the IEP meeting? The writing on this is so small. I'm sorry, you guys. A, if the parent refuses to attend the meeting, the school must assign a surrogate parent to attend. B, no, a school cannot hold an IEP meeting without a parent. C, a meeting may be held without a parent in attendance if the school district is unable to convince the parent to attend. So 3 of 8 people have participated so far. I'm going to wait another minute-ish to see if people are still trying to decide.
Someone says in the chat, B.
Okay, cool. All right, that's a little over half of us. Do you want to close it, Wallace?
Sure.
And I forget, in this one, don't we answer it in the next slide? Yep, there we are. So the correct answer is C. In Bulletin 1706, under parent participation and conducting an IEP meeting with a parent in attendance, a meeting may be conducted without a parent in attendance if the school district is unable to convince the parents that they should attend. The district shall then keep a record of its attempts to arrange a mutually agreed upon time and place. So some of those things in the record should be detailed records of telephone calls made or attempted and the results of those calls, copies of correspondence sent to the parents and any responses received, and detailed records of visits made to the parent's home or place of employment and the results of those visits. It's important to remember that if the school meets without the parent and it's the first IEP meeting, the parent still has to sign the IEP before services can be started. So let's take a look at where you can find information about IEP meetings. This is a screenshot of the Louisiana Department of Education homepage. You can get there by going to https://doe.louisiana.gov. When you get this, you should be able to click on it. You're going to see the home page where I have the blue arrow. Click School and System Leaders. If you click on that, it's going to bring up the landing page for school and system leaders. This is the landing page for the school and system leaders. On this page, scroll down until you see diverse learners in the middle of the page in a bold teal color. After clicking on the diverse learners, you'll see a section called Diverse Learners Quick Links. On the Diverse Learners Quick Links, you scroll down till you see Students with Disabilities Resources. Click on that link. On the Students with Disabilities resource page, you scroll down and you're going to find a lot of resources there that you might want to use. One of those resources on that web page is called Special Education Related Bulletins. In the Special Education Related Bulletins, you're going to find a link for Bulletin 1706. So we're on the Students with Disabilities resource page. We're on the section called Special Education Related Bulletins. In Special Education Bulletins, you're going to find 1706. And as you can see right here, that blue arrow is pointing to 1706. Here's the table of contents for 1706. If you scroll down to chapter D on page 30, that's the beginning of the IEP meeting process. Then if you scroll down to section 322, that's where parent participation starts. Things like Bulletin 1706 can be overwhelming if you ever try and sit down and read it or find a specific section. However, Bulletin 1706, along with most of the state's bulletins, are downloadable into a Microsoft Word document. That allows you to use the word navigation bar in the document to find words. Once you type in any word in the navigation bar, Word will give you a list of everywhere that word is used in the document. Sort of a little cheat sheet. Let's see, next question. Do I have to pick up my child every time he has a meltdown? When a school calls for you to pick up your child, you need to ask, are they sick? If the school says no, then you need to ask, why are you picking them up? If they say it's because they're having a bad day, you need to ask, are they being suspended? If they say no, you need to tell them you're not going to be picking them up, that they have an IEP, and hopefully it has the behavior plan for them to follow. If they don't have a behavior plan, you need to request an IEP meeting to set up a positive behavior intervention plan. If they insist you pick up your child, you can do one of two things. You can refuse, or that you can require them to do an official suspension. Sometimes the schools are going to make it sound like they're doing you a favor and just calling it a cool-off day. It's not a favor. Remember, there's very specific rules about suspensions for students with disabilities. That's why you want all cool-off days marked as suspensions. There's no limit to how many cool-off days they can use. We hear stories like, the school system said they will call the police if I don't come and pick him up. Don't panic. Let the school know you consider them to be a violation of your child's rights. And rather than call the police, why not just suspend him? Then you'll come pick him up. Some parents get offices from office clerks or discipline staff who aren't aware that that child has an IEP. If that's the case, you might want to ask if the special education teacher is aware of the suspension and ask for that person to call you. Then you can go back over some of the same information with that person. What are the school's responsibilities for handling continuous behavior issues? If your child's behavior prevents him or other children from learning, the IEP should include goals to address those problem behaviors. The team needs to consider positive behavior intervention supports and other strategies to change the child's behavior. Research demonstrates that PBIS and supports are effective in dealing with behavior that's dangerous, disruptive, impedes learning, and leads to social exclusion. Students exhibiting continuous behavior issues should have a functional behavior assessment, or they might call it an FBA. That will identify the purpose of the behavior. Data will be collected and analyzed by observing the child in different settings. The data should identify the behavior that needs to change, come up with a hypothesis about the reason for the behavior, and interventions to help change the behavior. The interventions are then going to need to be tracked and evaluated to see how effective they are. A behavior intervention plan, the BIP, needs to be created for any child with continuous behavior problems. The plan should address skills training to increase appropriate behavior, changes in the classroom, and other environments to reduce or eliminate problem behaviors, strategies to replace problem behaviors with appropriate behaviors, supports for your child to use those appropriate behaviors, and data collection to monitor your child's progress. Okay, I think at this point it is Wallace's turn.
Thank you, Melinda. And hopefully you're learning some good information. And that's the point of these webinars. So we'll move right along with the question. Can my child be suspended if he or she has an IEP? Yes. School personnel may remove a student with a disability who violates the code of student conduct from his or her current placement to an appropriate alternative educational setting, or suspension, not for more than 10 consecutive school days, to the extent those alternatives are applied to students without disability, and for an additional removal of not more than 10 consecutive school days in that same school year for separate incidents of misconduct, as long as those removals do not constitute a change in placement. If a student with a disability has been removed from his or her current placement for a total of 10 cumulative school days in the same school year, then the school district shall provide services to the extent required during any subsequent days of removal. School personnel may consider any unique circumstances on a case-by-case basis when determining whether a change of placement consistent with the requirements related to discipline is appropriate for a student with a disability who violate the code of student conduct. For disciplinary changes in placement that would exceed 10 consecutive school days, if the behavior that gave rise to the violation of the school code is determined not to be a manifestation of the student's disability, the school personnel may apply the same disciplinary procedures to students with disabilities in the same manner and for the same duration as the procedures would be applied to students without disability, provided that all required educational and related services continue. The student IEP team determines the interim alternate educational setting for such service. How do you determine if a behavior is a manifestation of a child's disability? Within 10 school days of any decision to change the placement of a student with a disability because of violation of the code of student conduct, the school district, the parent, and relevant members of the IEP team shall review all relevant information in the student's file to determine if the conduct in question was caused by or had direct and substantial relationships to the student's disability, or if the conduct in question was a direct result of the school district's failure to implement the student's IEP. If the school district parent and relative members of the student IEP team determine that either of those conditions were met, the conduct must be determined to be a manifestation of the student's disability. If the local education agency, you, and relevant members of your child's IEP team determine the conduct in question was a direct result of the local education agency's failure to implement the IEP, the local education agency shall take immediate steps to remedy those deficiencies. Determining that behavior was a manifestation of the child's disability, if it is determined that the conduct was a manifestation of the student's disability, the IEP team shall conduct a functional behavioral assessment, known as FBA, unless the local education agency had conducted a functional behavior assessment before the behavior that resulted in the change of placement occurred, and implement a behavior intervention plan or a BIP for the student. Or if the behavior intervention plan has already been developed, review the behavior intervention plan and modify it as necessary to address the behavior. The school district must return the student to the placement from he or she was removed unless the parent and the local education agency agree to change the placement as part of the modification of the behavior intervention plan. However, there are special circumstances that are exceptions to this. School personnel may remove a student to an interim alternative educational setting for not more than 45 school days without regard to whether the behavior is determined to be a manifestation of the student's disability if the student carries or possesses a weapon at school, on school premises, or at the school function under the jurisdiction of the Louisiana Department of Education or the local education agency, or if they knowingly possess or use illegal drugs or sales or solicit the sale of a controlled substance while at school, on school premises, or at school function under the jurisdiction of the Louisiana Department of Education or a local school district, or if they have inflicted serious bodily injury upon another person while at school or on school premises or at a school function under the jurisdiction of the Louisiana Department of Education or a local school district. So what is a change of placement due to disciplinary removal? A removal of a student with a disability from his or her current educational placement is a change in placement if the removal is more than 10 consecutive school days, or if the student has been subjected to a series of removals that constitute a pattern, because the series of removals total more than 10 consecutive school days in a year, the student's behavior is substantially similar to behavior in previous incidents that resulted in a series of removals, and of such additional factors, the length of each removal, the total amount of time the student has been removed, and the proximity of the removals to one another. Whether a pattern of removals constitutes a change of placement is determined on a case-by-case basis by the school district, and if challenged, is subject to review through the due process and judicial proceeding. So what happens if I disagree with the discipline decision? You can disagree with any decision regarding placement or the manifestation of termination. You may appeal the decision by requesting a due process hearing. Bulletin 1706 allows for an expedited due process hearing. However, if your child has engaged in behavior that leads to a change in placement or an interim alternative educational setting, and you request a due process hearing, the student must remain in the interim alternative education setting pending the decision of the hearing officer or until the expiration of the time period of the disciplinary change of placement, unless the parent and the local education agency agree otherwise. Of course, if the behavior is determined to be related to the child's disability, then there can be no disciplinary action taken as a result of that behavior. Okay, now we're going to launch a poll. So I'm going to pull the poll up. Take me just a second. Okay, and hopefully you see the poll. And the poll questions are, this is the question. An expedited due process hearing shall occur within blank number of school days. So your answers could be 10 school days is A, and 15 school days is B, and 20 school days is C. So an expedited due process hearing shall occur within blank school days. A, 10, B, 15, or C, 20. All right. And I'll give you a few minutes to complete the poll. A few more minutes. Okay. All right, I'm fixing to close the poll. Now we'll go on to discuss the answer. So the correct answer was C. Whenever a hearing is requested, a determination in an interim alternative education setting, the parent or the school district is involved in the dispute shall have the opportunity for an impartial due process hearing consistent with Bulletin 1706 subchapter B of section 532. The Louisiana Department of Education shall arrange for expedited due process hearing which shall occur within 20 school days of the date of the request for due process hearing is filed. So the expedited request is 20 right here. So the answer was C. All right, now we're going to take a look at where you can find information on discipline. And you may recognize this is a screenshot of the Louisiana Department of Education homepage. And like Melinda said here earlier, you can get there by going to https:// DOE and then the word Louisiana spelled out .gov. You can also Google Louisiana Department of Education and then find that link and click on it. You will see on the home page where there's a blue arrow pointing at families of students. If you click on that, it's going to bring up the next page and then I'll show you. And so this is the families of students web page. On this web page, you scroll down and you're going to see special education resources in the middle of the web page in teal color. You're going to want to click on special education resources where the blue arrow is pointing. And this is the web page for special education resources. And I believe, like Melinda said earlier, this has got a lot of resources and things on it. So you can look at, and we're gonna send you the PowerPoint after this presentation later today. So you'll be able to have access to all this wonderful information. So here's what happens when you click on the special education resources page, and then you're going to scroll down. You're going to see where the blue arrows are pointing. You can go to either one. It'll access the same document. So by scrolling down on the special education resources webpage, you're going to find the Louisiana Educational Rights of Children with Disabilities. A lot of times school and people refer to this as the rights booklet. So this document is called the Louisiana Educational Rights of Children with Disabilities. If you see where I click the second arrow, where the blue arrow is pointing down, if you click on that little arrow, then it's going to open up where you can see this document in English as well as other languages. So it'll be in English, Arabic, Chinese mainland, Chinese Taiwan, French, Spanish, Urdu, and Vietnamese. And this is the guide that was developed. That this is what happens when you click on these links. It comes to this page. So the guide was developed by the Louisiana Department of Education to help parents navigate the complex system that oversees special education in schools. Each year, the school districts are required to provide parents a copy of this. It's also known as your procedural safeguards. This handbook is your notice of procedural safeguards. Those are safeguards that are used to inform parents of the supports, services, and protections offered by your local public school district. A copy of these procedural safeguards should be given to you once a year and upon the initial referral or at your request for an evaluation. When a decision is made to take disciplinary action that results in a change in placement, and the first time you file a state complaint in a school year, and the first time you request a due process hearing in a school year. And of course, when you ask for a copy. Procedures when disciplining children with disabilities, what we've been talking about, is on page 32 of this document. If you would like to read the discipline regulations, you can go to Bulletin 1706 also. And the discipline regulations start on page 47 of subchapter B. And so, like I said before, you're going to get a link to Bulletin 1706, in the PowerPoint, so you can go to that section and read the discipline regulation. Now we'll move on. So what is FAPE? FAPE is an acronym for Free Appropriate Public Education. When Public Law 94-142 was enacted in 1975, it required that states submit plans that assured all students with disabilities the right to a free, appropriate public education. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, defines FAPE as special education and related services that are provided at public expense, under public supervision and direction, and without charge. It also meets state standards, and it includes preschool, elementary school, or secondary school education in the state. And they are provided in conformity with the Individualized Education Program. Today, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act requires that all states demonstrate that they have in effect a policy that ensures all children with disabilities to a right to free, appropriate education. Free or appropriate public education must be available to all children residing in the state between the ages of 3 and 21, including students with disabilities who have been suspended or expelled from school. So does free mean the school cannot charge me for anything? The free in faith means the school services must be provided at public expense under public supervision and direction without charge. Uniformly assessed fees are permissible. So, for example, a fee for a service may be charged only if the fee is a fee for all students in the school. The term at no cost does not preclude incidental fees that are normally charged to students without disability or their parents as part of the regular education program. So if all children in the school are charged a fee, then children with disabilities are charged a fee also. What does appropriate mean? Like many that use a car, I'm going to use an analogy of a Chevy versus a Cadillac. If both of you, if you use either a Cadillac or a Chevy, they're both going to get you where you're going. Then the Chevy is the most appropriate because it costs less and the results are the same. The Cadillac is more expensive and got more bells and whistles, and we would all like that, but doesn't necessarily mean we're all going to get that. But we are, or can use a Chevy to get to the same place. And so just because they both get you where to go, and the Chevy's the most appropriate, like we said, because it costs less and results are the same as the Cadillac. Appropriate doesn't mean best unless best is all that's available. Before 2017, the standard for special education progress was some educational benefit. In 2017, the United States Supreme Court made a landmark ruling which changed the long-standing of some educational benefit to standard to appropriately ambiguous in the light of the circumstance. The court wants every child to have a chance to meet challenging objectives. To meet its substantive obligation under IDEA, the Individual Disabilities Education Act, a school must offer an IEP reasonably calculated to enable a child to make progress appropriate in the light of the child's circumstance, which is called Andrew F. Standard. Some of the ways that a school can make sure goals are appropriate include this: conduct complete, thorough, and meaningful assessments that include observations in multiple settings, as well as a thoughtful analysis of the student's needs. Assessments drives the IEP, and then develop IEP goals that are appropriately ambiguous based on the student's unique circumstances. The same IEP goals should never be written over and over and over. Progress reporting is required. If the student is not making progress, reconvene the IEP meeting and address the lack of progress, and perhaps by changing goals or services. Document a thoughtful and well-established plan in the IEP. Show consideration of the unique circumstances and be appropriately ambiguous in the development of the FAPE offer. IDEA does not have a specific definition of the meaning of appropriate. The lack of a specific definition of appropriate education in IDEA has led to frequent disagreements between parents, and schools regarding what constitutes appropriate education for a particular student. It has also led to several landmark legal cases, the most being held is the Andrew F. case heard in the United States Supreme Court. In the Andrew F. decision, the courts clarified that all students, including those performing at grade level and those unable to perform at grade level, the school must offer an IEP that is reasonably calculated to enable a child to make progress in light of the child's circumstance. So how will I know if my child is benefiting from his or her educational program? Perhaps the clearest evidence that the educational program is not providing the educational benefit, that the child is not progressing educationally or is even actually regressing in the present educational placement. Under IDEA, an appropriate education enables the child to make progress in the general curriculum as well as advance towards IEP goals. So monitoring IEP goals should be the first indicator if your child is making progress or not. At all, review IEP meetings. The first thing you should discuss is the progress made towards current goals. Section 1400C5 of IDEA specifically states almost 30 years of research and experience has demonstrated with the education of children with disabilities can be more effective by strengthening the roles and responsibility of parents, ensuring that families of such children have meaningful opportunities to participate in the education of their children at school and at home. Some examples of how you can participate are: review homework your child is completing. Can they do it on their own? Do they need extra support? Does it match up with IEP goals? And what do you think your child should be doing? Review grades regularly. Many schools offer online portals for parents to see up-to-date grades. Ask how this classwork lines up with the state standard. You can review the state standards on the Department of Education website. Review progress report. The school sends home with report card. Request more frequent progress report. Do regular check-ins with the teachers. Don't just wait for scheduled parent-teacher conference days. Participate in your child's IEP meeting by asking clarifying questions. Share information about your child that may be useful to teachers. An excellent way to do this is some booklets that we're going to share with you from Families Helping Families of Greater New Orleans website. And so at the end, I'll have those resources listed. It's two different types of student portfolios that you can use that'll tell about your child, and you can use that to share with the educational system. Can my child participate in extracurricular activities and after-school programs? Yes, extracurricular activities enhance your child's life as a member of the school community. The idea is specific that children with disabilities can participate in extracurricular activities and other non-academic activities. The IEP has a specific section for extracurricular activity. IDEA doesn't specifically address after-school programs such as aftercare for young children. However, all students with an IEP are also protected under Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. And Section 504 protects people with disabilities from being discriminated against. Section 504 requires that programs provide students with disabilities equal opportunity to participate in activities and programs. The regulation implementing Section 504 at 34 CFR Section 1044A states that no qualified individual with a disability shall, on the basis of a disability, be excluded from participation in or be denied the benefits of or otherwise be subjected to discrimination under any program or activity which receives financial assistance from the Department of Education. The U.S. Department of Education, New York Office for Civil Rights responded to a parent's complaint allegations that her daughter with autism was discriminated by her schools before and after care program. The parent alleged that the program is available to all non-disabled students for $5 a day. The program required her to pay an additional $35.76 per day to cover the cost of a one-on-one aid required since she had a one-on-one aid during the school day. The school district alleged that the program was not operated by the district and that it would be undue financial hardship to provide a one-on-one aid since the program operated on self-generated income. The office's civil rights response was, even if the school district doesn't operate the program, they can't deny a qualified individual from participating. In this situation, qualifying only required you to be a student of the school. The daily cost to the school district to hire a one-on-one aide was not undue financial hardship on a district with a $72 million budget. The Office of Civil Rights determined that the student was denied equal opportunity to participate in the program. And now here's the list of resources that I mentioned in today's training that me and Melinda mentioned. And so there's resources for students with disabilities from the Louisiana Department of Education website, and also on the Louisiana Department of Education website, there's Bulletin 1706, and then Bulletin 1530, and then there's the two portfolios that I mentioned. So once you complete the evaluation, and then later today, we'll email you these resources in a follow-up email. So for any reason you don't get your follow-up email, please contact us so that we can get the information to you. And here's our contact information. So if you need additional support on your parental rights or any other special education or education issue, you can contact us at 1-800-894-6558 on our toll-free line or our regular phone number. If you're in the Lake Charles area, you can please call us locally at 337-436-2570. And you also can email us at info@FHFSWLA.org. And this is our email address. And on our website and on our social media channels, we offer great information. So please check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Like us, follow us, and share our posts, because that way others can benefit from the information also. And then through our website or by contacting us, you can be added to get our newsletter list and our emails that we send out on a regular basis about disability-related trainings and things. We have great resources on our website, which is www.FHFSWLA.org, or you can Google Families Helping Families of Southwest Louisiana, and then you can find us that way. And then we would like to request that you complete the evaluation on this training. We're going to put a link in the chat box. And you should also receive an email with this link in it. You only need to complete the survey once, and it's anonymous. This information helps us improve our training. So, and like I said, everyone that's registered and completes the survey, they're going to get a copy of the PowerPoint, certificate of attendance, and other resources. And so, and we'd also like to open it up to questions. Now that we've gone through many frequently asked questions, hopefully you still learn some new things. And so we're going to give you the opportunity to ask us questions. And if for any reason you have other questions and you later on, you can contact us later and we'd still be happy to get with you. If you don't have any that need to be answered at this time, you can email us again at info@FHFSWLA.org, or you can call us on our phone number, area code 337-436-2570, or 1-800-894-6558. And we'll be happy to help you with any questions that you have. So let's see if there's any questions in the chat box.
Nope, no questions in the chat box.
Okay, and then if you haven't done so, I will put the link to this evaluation survey in the chat box.
No, I did not.
Okay, so here it goes. And like we said, you only need to complete it once, but it'll go out in the follow-up email as well. So completing the survey once is good enough for us. All right, and I'd like to thank everyone for attending this webinar. We want you to check out Families Help Families website and our Facebook page for all upcoming and future trainings and events. You know, so that you can see what's going on. We have some other things, and like Melinda said earlier, there's the LeCan community input meetings. They're on our website and Facebook pages. So you can check those out and register for those. And we also got on our website something they're training for youth, for children of youth age, I believe from I think it's maybe 12 up to 21 or something like that. It's on our website. I might be wrong. Go to our website and check it out. It's fun activities and things and for youth at this workshop we're doing, just strictly for students with disabilities that live in an area. It's in person. So that's something that you can check out that's coming up. There's limited space available for that. So if you have a youth with disabilities, this would be a wonderful thing to help with their self-advocacy. So you can find it on our website. Okay. All right. Again, thank you everyone.
Wallace, it's actually for 8 to 14-year-olds. So if you have a child that's a little bit younger, they could attend.
Okay, I apologize.
No,
I knew
it's
I should have pulled the information up.
no, it's no problem. I just
But
want to make sure.
I know we want, students to attend, the youth to attend. And so it's something they will enjoy. We're offering them food too. I believe it might be something, that they like to eat, so there's activities and things. So it's something they'll love. Okay. Again, thank you everyone for attending. Someone said they already did their survey. Yay. So we appreciate that. And we look forward to seeing you again on future webinars. Everyone have a nice day. And thank you for attending.